Generosity gets a bad rap. So often when we hear the generosity, what do we think? Somebody's trying to reach up into my pocket and take my money. Well, that's not what biblical generosity is. And so today on the Live Faith First podcast, that's what we're going to talk about. We talked to Mary Pudaite. She runs an organization called Generous Living Global. And we're going to talk about what is biblical generosity looks like. And it's Christmas season, y'all. So we're going to be talking about the gift of Jesus. And Mary's got this amazing story of her father and her grandfather and how a whole region in Eastern India was transformed by the gospel in so many ways. And so sit down and enjoy this episode of the Live Faith First podcast. Generosity sometimes gets a bad rap. I mean, the generosity message at church, it turns into a masterclass in manipulation. It's like, it's only a way to get money, to meet budgets, and pastor, to get into my wallet. But what if generosity was something much bigger than that? Well, today we have Mary Pudaite from Generous Living Global to help us work through this. So Mary, are you ready for this conversation this morning?
I'm so ready. This is going to be fun, Elliot.
Yeah. It is. We're going to have a great time today. Now, I can't wait to hear the story about your dad and his legacy from the hills of India to community catalyst and really transforming community. But before we get there, I'd love to hear the cliff notes of your life. Where were you born? Where were you raised? How'd you get to where you are today?
Okay, so I am one of those kind of anomalies. I grew up in Wheaton, Illinois. I went to Wheaton Christian Grammar School, Wheaton Academy, and then Wheaton College with a little semester in there with Westmont College.
Nice.
And so I spent all my time in Wheaton until I got married. And so my husband and I met. We went to high school together, but we didn't really know each other until afterward. And he's a pro fisherman and author, and we have 4 kids. I've got Rebecca, Ethan, Kate, and Chloe, and I've got a wonderful son-in-law who loves my daughter well and he and Rebecca have given us 2 of the best presents ever, Paloma and Henry.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
All right. And like empty nester, all the kids out of the house now, or is anybody boomeranged
Yeah,
back?
sorta. I've got one still living with us. He's working his way out of the house, and then Chloe's off at college. But the other 2, yeah. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Well, we are recording this literally a week before Christmas. So I usually don't divulge the time, but only because you can see Mary has an amazing Christmas setup behind her today. And our daughter just returned from exams at Westmont. So we all have a bit of that in common. So I'm excited for this conversation about generosity. Would you tell us, like, what is it, man? I think we know, but what is generosity? You can go for like the basic, definition of what is generosity. How do you define it?
Gosh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think everybody, the first time you hear the word generosity or you hear generous, like all of us, we do what you just said. We all point to money, right? And it's like more than money. It's, and if we all live it out really biblically, right? It's spiritual formation. It's just living out what God has done for us, what Jesus, the whole story of God, Jesus, starting from Genesis. It's like, how are you not living out this generosity when it's just part of who you are and who God has given us so much, this abundance, that we just live it out fully with our time, our talents, and our treasures.
Yeah. I love that. And it's interesting that you use like the story of going from creation, and that gift there all the way through to to Revelation and Jesus, of course, showing up as well. And there's a certain amount in generosity of like being aware of the generosity you've received. Right. Like it's a response, right? To
It is.
kind
it's
of
totally.
what God has already been generous to give us. Now, you talk a little bit about it's way more than money. So give me a little bit more on that. What beyond money, which obviously we think of typically when you say generosity, how does that
Hmm.
live out in time and talents? Like how have you seen that kind of live out a little bit?
Well, I mean, like, just think back to the New Testament, like how Jesus lived his life. He was compassionate. He was, he fed the 5,000. He turned water into wine. Like the whole, you watch Jesus's life and the incredible generosity of him, right? And so, how do we now transpose that into our lives today, right? Are
Yeah.
we generous with our time? Do we stop and write a note to our pastor? I mean, Elliot, how many letters have you received over the years that aren't negative? That they were just
Right.
like, Elliot, I'm just so grateful for
Right.
you. Thank you for
Yes. Yes.
showing up, right?
Let me put it this way. I still have a folder with every kind note I ever got. And it's
Right?
thick, but I was a school
Right.
principal and like my teachers made kids write me thank you notes occasionally. So, yes,
Yeah.
you're right. You don't get a lot of those.
No. So it's like, I think about things like that. I think about words of encouragement. I think about our time that we spend, the neighbor across the street, or I mean, even like I'm at Trader Joe's parking lot and I'm putting my cart away and I notice the person next to me is unloading their groceries and I grab their cart and they like look shocked at me that I'm grabbing their cart to take it with mine, but I'm already heading that way. So like,
Right.
why not? But like, wow, how
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
an impact on a person on their day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think about that. I think about our talents, what God has given each of us. We're all made so different. And so he's given us the body of Christ, right? We're all able to do so many different things. I can't do what you do, Elliot, and you
Right.
can't
Right.
do a lot of things
Right.
I do. And so
Likewise. Right.
that's what's so fun about like how we live out being kingdom citizens on this earth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And this is from an example just about 2 minutes ago, you mentioned Jesus turning water into wine. And so often we feel like generosity is going to be painful. Like I got to dig deep into my wallet or I
Mm,
got to like go out and
mm-mm.
serve in a place. And my wife is an amazing person, but like she's happy to serve in church, but
Mhm.
like don't make her serve in children's ministry. Like she
Yeah.
doesn't want to work with preschoolers. She'll do a million other things. And so often we think that generosity means, oh, I'm probably gonna have to work with the preschoolers. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to. And yet the water to wine is a story of joy. It's a story of a
Totally.
wedding that was already going and
Mhm.
there was a need there. And Jesus not only made the best wine that they had had that night, but he brought more joy to the party. And so generosity is a joy. It's in fact, your trainings things you do, you used to call them the joyous journey of
Journey and
generosity.
joy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Journey
journey
and
and joy.
joy of
Okay.
generosity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a grind. It doesn't.
Well, it better not be. I mean,
Right.
otherwise, what's the point? I mean,
Right.
I think that's one of the cool parts about generosity is that what it does to us, even physiologically, right? The
Mm.
endorphins, all of that stuff. I mean, there's papers written about generosity that are even from a non-Christian perspective. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, okay, so there is something to this generosity.
Yeah. 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 Good
We
for
just
us.
know
Good for
we just know where
others.
it comes from.
Exactly. Exactly. I say it all the time. I love it when science catches up with what the Bible has
There
been
you go.
telling us
Hmm.
for 2, 3, 3,500, 4,000 years already. So
Yeah.
that is so good. Now, you have an organization that's focused on generosity and helping people understand these concepts. What are some typical maybe misconceptions you hear when you're like, hey, what do you do for a living? Like, well, I run an organization that does generosity. And like you see that like the wheels of like, oh, are you? And they're trying to figure you out. So what are some misconceptions maybe people have about generosity or that you've
Sure.
experienced?
Yeah, I mean, my entire career, my title has been Global Generosity Strategist, right? So first thing I'm sitting on the plane next to somebody. What do you do? Oh, I'm a generosity strategist, and they're like, oh, you're a fundraiser. And
Right. Yes.
I'm like, actually, no, I'm not. And I spread the message of generosity, and I just invite people into a safe space to talk about generosity. and
Yeah.
about God's generosity. And I love hearing their stories about generosity. And I think when we share and we, Frederick Buechner, one of my favorite writers, talks about that. When we share some of the secrets,
Mm,
then we
mm,
can't,
mm.
it helps us to be authentic in who we really are, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I love that message that we get to spread the message of generosity, but we also get to share with each other our stories of generosity.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really interesting you bring that part up about the sharing of our stories, because I grew up with don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing when it comes to generosity. And so I think we tend to like kind of put it in the category of don't talk about, religion and politics and
Mm-hmm.
money. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
like I grew up where my I didn't know any details around my dad's finances. I knew maybe some big picture stuff. So talk a little bit about, are people comfortable sharing stories around generosity? And maybe they're not like, I gave X number of dollars last year, but
Yeah.
like, does it take a while for people to like warm up to this idea of, I can tell that I gave money here or I supported that way? Like, how do people respond when you try to get them to talk about their generosity?
Yeah. In fact, I was just with a couple in New Mexico the last couple of days, and we were talking about this, and we were talking about our generosity stories. And, I've known them for years. So it's easy to have those conversations and start right out of the gate, because I know that this is not about them bragging and chest beating. This is about like sharing what God has done. Right. And
Yeah,
so I think,
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
fact, I know early on when I was, talking about this, and I'd have a call with a donor or someone, and I'd say, tell me your generosity story this week. Like, what did you do? And they're like, I can't tell you that because, the Bible says, right? Like what
Right,
you said,
right.
can't tell right now. And I'm like, well, Tim, are you telling me this to like beat your chest and tell me like how awesome you are? And he goes, absolutely not. This is
Right.
about how awesome God is. And I said, well, there you go, that's the answer.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
about your heart.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
if it's about your heart and it's about you sharing this authentically because of what God has done, then I receive it that way,
yeah,
that it's
yeah.
because of that, not because of how awesome you are.
Right, right. I love that. That is so good. How about the whole kind of health and wealth, prosperity gospel thing? Like, how does that ever like
Oh my
come up
gosh.
in your conversations?
Totally, totally. And in fact, that is a tough one, because people will say, I give because I'm expecting the Lord to bless me, right? And in fact, that's one of the things I hear a lot, people saying, and it's like, whoa, I think we need to rewind and have a conversation about that then. And so we started having a conversation about that. In fact, I was in Nigeria a couple weeks ago, and the most awesome thing happened. The day we were leaving, a pastor came and he said, I have been preaching prosperity gospel from the pulpit.
Hmm.
And I am denouncing that, because I realize, whoa, that I don't, I don't give in order to receive. I give because of what he's done for me.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just an outpouring of how generous he's been to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so awesome. I love that. I love that. And yeah, it's interesting when I think about on my own generosity journey. And right when I was starting my career, we will not say what year that was. I was not walking with Jesus.
Mm.
I grew up in the church. If you've been listening to the podcast enough, I grew up in the church, missionary kid, pastor now. But there was a good decade or so where I'm just kind of doing my own thing. And there's a few spiritual habits that continued. One was like occasionally going to church, probably like once a month. So I kind of like put that in just to make sure God was still happy with me. But I continued to tithe, and it's interesting. And again, I gave to the church that I grew up in, so I made that a habit. But there was this piece in the back of my brain that was saying, well, you have to tithe if you expect God
Mm.
to actually bless you financially or to get you ahead in your career. And it's so difficult because there is this part where like there's a giving and receiving, there's a generosity and there's a reciprocal, but again, our motivations can't be, I'm twisting God's arm now because I put in
Yeah, right.
$1,000 instead of 500. Pastor talked me into doubling my gift today. And so God's really going to bless me this week or this month. And he's going to, make up the gap. And God might, and he can, but if it's an arm twisting, well, I just, I forced God into this kind of thing, then I think our theology needs to be like reset a bit. And again,
Totally.
it's tough when there's those competing, like, I gotta sow the seed. And when I sow the seed, I will reap the harvest later. All which are biblical concepts, but with generosity, with anything, can we force God's hand? Can we make him do something and have to, because now we did something? And so that's interesting. I love that story about a pastor saying, the light has come on.
Right.
The light has come on.
I love it. And, there was a pastor in Nairobi that had gone through our generous living journey. And I love what he said, because it was the opposite. He did not preach, he never actually, what he said was, I don't preach about generosity from the pulpit because I don't want anybody to think I'm preaching prosperity gospel. So I decided to not preach at all about generosity. And he goes, I realized, and I'm admitting to all of you, in front of all of you, I've been sinning, because how will my people know what biblical generosity is if it's not coming from the pulpit? And I was like, yes, this is what we want to hear, because he's right. If we don't hear it from the pulpit, where are we going to hear it from?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you've already said, this is a discipleship thing.
It is.
I mean,
totally.
You look back to Abraham, and Abraham, it was righteousness was credited to him because of his faith. And we see, of course, Jesus doing faith. And there's a certain faith aspect to generosity, right? This certain faith of 100%. I have to trust God with this. And again, y'all, there's ways to manipulate that. So that's not what we're doing here. But like, there's still that discipleship, trust that takes place here. Which kind of segues me into this, another question for you. Is generosity only for the rich? Like, is this like, oh, once I get enough in my bank account, then I can be generous? Like, where should this start? Is there a salary range people should be looking for before they can be generous?
Right. So it sounds like you're saying we only give out of our abundance then.
Right.
And I don't think that's, I don't think that's how it works, right? I think generosity is, because we all have the DNA, right, of generosity in us. Because, I mean, for God so loved the world, right? Right there, right out of the gate, generosity. It happens, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, let's even go back further. Yet, like where we started at Genesis, right? There was nothing; it was void. And then all of a sudden, God created this amazing world with everything that we ever needed. Adam and Eve had everything that they needed in it.
Yeah.
So right out of the gate, he's pouring into us so much. And so this overflow is, that's why I like, no, it's not just for the rich. Everybody should be living generously, right?
Yeah.
And we see this. We see it in the Bible, the widow's mite, right? She was not some rich person.
Right.
She gave, right? And we, and the oil and Mary and Martha. And you look throughout the Bible, it's not just the rich who are giving.
Yeah.
We're all called. And we're all called, but it's an overflow. So it's not so hard. Because if we really experience God's generosity, it just naturally flows out of us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, one more kind of misperception, or let's talk about the poverty mindset or the abundance mindset. Like, how do we overcome that idea, that a scarcity mindset, that like there's not enough? Like
Yeah.
how, and maybe maybe that's part of this conversation about it's not just for the rich, but like, how do we overcome that? How does that work? What do you talk about scarcity mindset? Tell them what it is first. Let's do that
Oh
first.
my
And then we'll
gosh.
talk about how we kind of
Yeah.
start to overcome it.
Oh my gosh. This is going to take us on a wild road too. You do
Let's do
realize.
it.
Okay. So
Yes.
scarcity mindset. I mean, thinking you don't have enough, like I heard a story about like someone who had enough flour to take them through the weekend, and then their neighbor comes over and says, "Hey, could I grab a cup of flour? I'm finishing up my Christmas cookies." And they're like, mm.
Right.
There's
Right.
this big pause because like you got enough, but you're not sure, will I have enough for the weekend if I make Christmas cookies? And so like, but like, you don't know what happens when you like hand over that,
Right. Right.
that cup of flour. And
Right.
so,
Right.
yeah, so this mindset that there's not enough, right? And I mean, Elliot, for me, this scarcity mindset is really like, I didn't grow up in a home that it was that way. It wasn't actually until probably in my late 40s that I found out people have a scarcity mindset. I think I was really like the Lord really allowed me. I mean, to a certain extent, Wheaton's kind of Mayberry. So, you know, and so I grew up with this, I had Ken Taylor, who wrote the Living Bible, on my right side growing up. I had his son, Mark Taylor, who, took over his dad's, Tyndale House Publishing, on my left side. I had Dr. Elwell, Bible theology. I had so many people on my street growing up that I don't think I ever really understood this scarcity mindset. And then you back up and, you hear my story of that I'm a great granddaughter of a headhunter, right? And I'm not talking about like modern day headhunters. Our people chopped off people's heads,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And then the
mm.
gospel came to our people, and that changed everything
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I love that.
I didn't totally answer it, but like I'm like, there's this piece for me that it's like I don't it's like how do you not be generous when you know like how generous our God is.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that piece of scarcity has always been a little challenging for me, honestly, to unpack.
Yeah. 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 Well, and that, God's funny, you know, like I so my roles in church world have been business administrator, executive pastor, which means that like end of the year, like giving campaigns,
Hmm.
the lead pastor would be the guy up there, maybe, doing the actual speaking, but the behind the scenes was, here's how much we need to close the year, right? Here's what our numbers are. Here's what our goals are. Here's some strategies. And, we all put it together. And so as a pastor in that role, I remember the first several years, 2, 3, 4, anxious every December. Oh my
Hmm.
goodness, how are we going to meet budget? That's the number's never been this big, at least not while I've been here. And how will and what if, and like, and there's somehow this mindset that like, well, God doesn't have enough for the church that you're at. God doesn't, there won't be enough. And I remember sitting in budget meetings, we're planning the next year, we're still closing out the year, and being like, all right, we're going to, step out in faith because we really need a full-time music pastor, or whatever it was. And God started cultivating this thing where I stopped being anxious about year end after about year 3 or 4. Like after about 3 or 4 watching, like every year, December 31st, like this stuff coming in, and all of a sudden we hit the budget, and this guy out of the blue calling me like, hey, Elliot, what do we got to do to close the gap this year? All right, Mr. Goebel. Well, this year it's X, Y, and Z. And he's like, okay, run by my place and I'll write you a check. And like there was one year I'm driving home thinking, this would pay off most of my mortgage. Like this is a really nice check here,
Right.
and this is before houses in San Jose were 1.x, 2.x $1 million. So it wasn't that big of a check, but it was a huge check, and you're like, but God just always provided. And it's interesting because it changed. I had to switch my mindset. And so
So how did that
going in,
change you?
yeah. And you realize God's going to show up. God's going to do his thing. And so now when I'm talking, and I'll talk to, for Faith First, my boss is a business person. So he comes from I got to hustle, I got to sell, I got to do this, which I'm not saying you don't have to hustle. Yes, I'm out there working. We're doing our year-end giving campaigns, all those things. But there can be a time where like anxiety starts to like creep in on how we're going to do these numbers. These aren't adding up. And I'm like, I don't know, bro. And nobody, your boss never likes, I don't know. Like, I don't know is the worst thing you could tell you. I don't know. Here's the things that I do know, and we're going to go after this. But I also believe that God's going to show up somehow, unusually, that we're not expecting right now. And that's also the other side of that scarcity mindset, is just realizing that that's why I say when God's weird, funny, like he fills in that gap, but he doesn't tell you until you've already made that step. And then he's like, oh, by the way, now I will bridge that gap, and here's where it's going to come from, or here's how I'm going to show up. And so,
no, I love that, because I think back as a little girl, we were, every 4 years, my parents would take us to India, and it was Christmas time. And like, I just still remember my parents got a call from the US, and it was, first of all, it was amazing that the phone call even came through, because we didn't have mobile phones. It was, it was kind of crazy. But I just remember my parents getting a phone call from his secretary saying, we need $100,000 before the year ends to print these Bibles, because we've already, in faith, sent it off to the printer. And we got to come up with the money. And I just remember my dad gathering all of us around the fireplace. And he goes, we need to pray. That was the first thing he said. We're just going to pray, because we know that God will provide. He told us to do this. This is what we're supposed to do. And so we pray, and let's see what happens. And so I just watched my parents' faith and trust in this amazing God that we have. And so we all sat around, and we all prayed. 2 days later, the secretary calls my dad. And again, I laugh, because it's like, how does that phone call come through when I can't seem to ever like make phone calls out of that phone, but the phone call comes through. Anyway, the phone call comes through, and the secretary said, some guy in Pennsylvania has never heard of Bibles for the World, has never heard of this ministry. And he wrote a check and he sent it for the exact amount. Like, Elliot, how does that happen? Right. But it's like you said, you go from here to here, and that leap, right? That I don't know. I call it the 6 inches, head to heart, right? This can be the biggest chasm right here, right? These 6 inches.
Yes.
But as soon as that leap happens, and I just think, I don't know, it's cool when that happens.
It is. It's amazing. And like, this is not what they taught me in business school. Like, so when you're coming to year end and you got to close a gap, sit down and pray. Like, that is not what you learn at business school. But and please don't hear what I'm saying, y'all. Like, go if business school is on, you do business school and have amazing business practices. Like, you learn, understand. I love the phrase, Jesus says, be gentle as a dove and wise as a serpent. Mm-hmm. So use all of your business skills for the glory of God and to his kingdom. But there's a spiritual aspect to all this. Mm-hmm. And there's a piece where you just have to sit down and go, I'm at the end. I don't have anything more, Lord. I don't have another person to call. I don't have another donor in mind. So I here you go. You told me the number already. So apparently you want to meet this number. So, oh man, I love that story. And for those of you who don't understand, like, again, I grew up in Nigeria. So, in fact, Mary, we're going to tell a little bit about the story of Mary and I in Nigeria. I got to go on her trip with her, but y'all, phones didn't work. I'm telling you, we had a phone in our house, which was amazing that we got to have a phone in our house. Like, we were like one of the first people on our compound, in our neighborhood to actually have a phone. And like you say, like so my girlfriend lived, across town. And so like, it was the good night call, 5 digits. And I would literally sit there and dial maybe 50 times, sometimes 10. 10 would be a good night. And this is to get across town. This is not an international call trying to come from like Wheaton, right? So that's a miracle right there.
Yeah,
Maybe more than
totally.
the $100,000 check.
I think so.
All right. I want one more story of your generous living journeys that you all do. Part of that journey is you have people organize a project of generosity. Would you tell us stories of like, what are some outstanding projects that you've heard when you've done this, and maybe even some of the outcomes you've begun to trickle into
Yeah.
you there?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, totally. Like one of them that we've done, they all decided as a group project to write thank you letters to their pastor. I I found out that one of the pastors was scared to open the letter, which
Yes. Yes. Yes.
right? Okay. Like I was on a worship team, so I know because every Sunday there was always this one person who would come up, your music's too loud. Oh, we didn't like this song. Could you play this song instead? Next week, could you do this? It's like, come on, really? So, I get the whole terrifying moment you're getting a letter from somebody at church, but I thought that was cool. And so when he did open it up, he was so grateful. He's like, I've never gotten a letter like this before. Which was really sad, but
Right.
you
Right.
know,
So y'all
so
write kind letters to your
yep.
pastors today. Kind, even if you think their jeans are too tight, or or you didn't like the song they chose. Like, just give them a little love. So, all
There's
right,
got to be something positive you can say to
something
your
you can come up
pastor,
with.
right? Yeah. So, okay. So, another group, I loved this one because they thought they're doing something so awesome. They gathered up, they decided to teach this orphanage nearby how to bake bread. So I was like, great, okay. So they got all the pieces together, the flour, the water, a little sugar, yeast, all that stuff, and brought it over to the orphanage. And that Saturday, they took their time and their talents and a little money to pay for the things, and they taught these kids how to bake bread. It was awesome. The kids loved it. They got to eat it, all that stuff. But here's what they didn't know. That group, that table went back home, and they found out this later, but the following Saturday, there was leftover of all the things to make the bread. The kids went ahead and did it again. This time they went out and sold the bread.
Oh, wow.
And so now they're capacity building. They're
Yes.
now like, there's this whole like sustainability piece happening in this orphanage, and the joy that these kids are like pouring in as they make this bread, and the love and the goodness. And
Yeah.
so now every week, that's what's happening at this
Wow.
orphanage.
Wow. Wow.
I don't think
Amazing.
that's what that table had in mind when they started this
Right.
idea. I didn't.
Right.
I don't think they went. And when we go, our business plan, our business model is that we're
Right.
going to teach these kids in the orphanage how to make bread, and then we're going to make sure that they go out and do this every Saturday. That never even crossed their minds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a little
And
something
so,
to help them, hey, here's a little skill you can have, right? A little something.
yeah,
I love that. And you talk about ripples of generosity.
yeah,
That's a ripple,
right,
right?
totally, right.
It just keeps on giving. Like one of your early
Yeah.
examples of just grabbing somebody's grocery cart. And you kind of hope that maybe that added a little joy to of unusualness, that they chose to maybe grab somebody else's cart the next time they're in the parking
Yeah.
lot. So
Yeah. I think sometimes when we do these generous acts, part of it is it doesn't dawn on us, right? Like how simple and how good that was and easy that was to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like I do that pretty often because for that just that reason, is that I'm hoping that it does ripple, and that later in the day that person goes, you know what? I remember that act happened to me. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
this is like, no, it's such a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Well, clearly from your background, it is Christmas season. Like I've already said, we're shooting this a week before Christmas. This is going to come out on Christmas Eve. Tell me a little bit about your family Christmas traditions. Like, what did you all do on Christmas? Or maybe you want to talk about your family of origin. Maybe you want to talk about your current family. Either is acceptable. And do you have any unusual traditions or like years that you're like, I remember this one time my husband or my dad or my kid did such and such?
Great. I love this question. Yeah, I love Christmas. And when, that moment when, because you have kids, and that moment you turn to your spouse and you're like, we actually did something right.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I had led worship like a couple weeks. I had led worship in December, and I remember leading that Sunday, and we would bring our kids to worship service, and so they've seen me lead worship since they were babies, and so our daughter was 2 or 3, I think, that Christmas, our first one, and I still remember I'm up there leading, and I said something to the effect of like, "This is just where the story begins.
Mm,
This
mm.
is not the end of the story. The story begins here." And so that week I was home, and I turned to Rebecca and I said, "So, what's your favorite holiday?" Thinking Christmas, presents,
Right,
right?
right. Absolutely.
She goes, "Easter." I look at her and I'm like, "You're 3 years old." Maybe she was 2.5, 3 years old. I go, "Easter?" And she's like, "What's the point of Jesus being born if he didn't die and rise again?" And I was like,
What?
okay, I just got schooled by my little 3-year-old.
Right. Oh, she's already catching it. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's why, I mean, for me, that's why I love Christmas, because I remember that story, and I remember this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
This is just the
Yeah.
start of
Yeah.
something good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, so that's why. And I love that Paloma and Henry are in our lives now. My husband does the most awesome thing at Christmas. He's been doing this for a long time. He is, he makes everyone a stocking. So we all have our own stockings,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and every stocking has a theme.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, he puts his whole entire heart into these stockings. So, maybe it's some theme of some book, and then around that book. So he just gets inspired, and then the whole thing comes together, and Christmas morning the kids come down, and there's stockings right in front of the
Yeah.
fire, and
Yes.
each
Yes.
stocking is all like, it's like, how like chefs plate food so beautifully. He
Yes.
plates the stockings in front of the fireplace, and everything, and the kids rush right. That's all they care about is they
Yeah.
don't care about the gifts under the tree. They just want to know what the theme is. Now as adults, like, they're all like, what's been in dad's head this year? What has he been thinking about for each kid, and what is the theme for each stocking? So I think that's
uh,
pretty cool. So that's
that
that's
is.
one of our big Christmas themes, that we do
Oh, I
every
love
year,
that.
without a doubt. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That
Yeah.
is so good. Yeah. My wife and I, we're pretty good at gifts, but not every year is equal. And so, like as far as like some years, like we have more time and we put more effort and thought into it. And then sometimes it's like this year, we like, was it yesterday or I think it was the day before, with a follow-up yesterday of like, we're really not getting each other anything for Christmas. Like, we're not, because we're going on a big vacation in January.
Mhm.
So we're like, well, we're just, that's what it's going to be. But it's that look in the eyes of like, this is real, right? You're not buying me something. You're not, and she actually, yesterday morning after that conversation, she wakes up, she looks at me like, you're not going to be upset when you don't have gifts. Like, I'll have a stocking. There'll be a stocking, but like,
Okay.
and I told her, I'm like, I can't promise you what my heart will do on Christmas morning if I'm sad because I don't.
You're so honest.
I like opening gifts, and maybe it's my inner child, my selfishness still, but there's that piece of like, did I get enough gifts this year? So anyway, I'm a little weird, but I'm accepting that this year Christmas will be in
Yeah.
January. That's when we're
Yeah.
going to kind of spend that budget there, but. We do tamales on Christmas. My wife's Hispanic.
Oh.
So like tamales, we don't make them. We have made them. It's a lot of work. And we have this great abuela. Her name is Chela. Chela, like, will come around our neighborhood every couple of weeks and sell her tamales. But Christmas season, so I texted her this week. She calls me back, and we got the order in for Christmas. So we got, some pork tamales, some cheese tamales coming. So and my
Oh, I'm
wife
so
makes this
jealous.
breakfast rice that her grandpa used to make, and she only makes it once a year on Christmas. She'd make it otherwise, but so a lot of our traditions, I mean, obviously gifts and all that stuff, but they somehow landed around food.
Hmm.
That's one of our like, it's a day of eating. And then even Christmas Eve. So my wife and I got married on New Year's Eve. Um, and so Christmas Eve, of course, a week earlier, we go to church, and like, this is the week before we get married. We can't find a restaurant that's open. Like, San Jose shut down the restaurants, I guess, on Christmas Eve. And so we're driving around looking, and there's this old restaurant called Kukar's House of Pizza. And Kukar's makes round pizza, but square slices. So I don't know if you've, like, they, instead of like making wedges, they cut it so you get squares. So some have crust and some is just inner. Like, you just get the inside. It's all just cheese.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're open on Christmas Eve. And every Christmas Eve since, except one, every Christmas Eve since, we have gone to Kukar's House of Pizza. And it's like this amazing memories, because Penny's dad would show up sometimes, most of the time, and he passed away now about 5 years ago. And
Mm.
her brother, sometimes we had like 20 people from church there. Sometimes it was just the 3 or 4 of us. But yeah, that's one of our family traditions, is going to Kukar's House of Pizza and
That's a
sitting
great story.
down,
Yeah.
pizza
Yeah.
parlor. That's it.
I love it.
So
I think a lot of people's Christmases revolve around food. I mean, my kids are all on their way. One's coming home from California, one's on our way from Wheaton, and they're all like, "We are having spaghetti bolognese Christmas Eve, right?"
yes,
Like,
yes,
okay, I guess I'm making
yes,
spaghetti bolognese, honey. But
yes.
it's been our tradition for, I don't know,
Yeah,
29 years.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
guess we got to do this.
Mom makes caramel corn and almond roca.
Oh, yeah.
And my
Almond
mom's
roca.
almond roca is like that pink stuff. It's trash. Like,
Okay,
don't,
I
if
need,
Pete gives you a can of pink almond roca, like, okay, but like, I won't eat. I like it anyway. Her almond roca and her caramel corn are amazing. And like, I swear, like 3 years ago, she like, okay, so she sends us home with a gallon bag of or two of caramel corn, and then like quart bags of almond roca. And this is just what mom does. And mom best do that. Like, right? A few years ago, she didn't do it. And we're like, Mom, what happened? Like, where's the
yeah.
almond roca? Where's our caramel corn? She says this. She's like, you know what? I made 3 gallons of caramel corn. Excuse me. I made 3 gallons of almond roca. And she went away for the weekend, and my
Oh,
dad ate all of it. He cleared like bins, like big. And I'm looking at my dad. My dad's there, and he has that Cheshire smile, like, I ate it all. And I'm like, Dad, are you kidding me? First off, for your health, you just chose to eat like bags of sugar and chocolate. And like, I know there's almonds and walnuts in it, but that ain't healthy. I don't care what you say, Dad. And so one year we didn't get it because Dad just said,
Dad.
I think that might have been all he ate all weekend. Like, I don't know that he had an egg for breakfast. I
Oh
think he
my
probably sat
gosh.
down and just like,
Oh my
anyway.
gosh. Does your mom
So
share recipes?
she does share recipes. She does share recipes. I will warn you, the almond roca, though, there's skill to it as well. So it's
Okay.
like the sugar and and the butter. You stir it until it melts, but then sometimes the butter like
Mm-hmm.
separates, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to keep stirring until the butter goes in. And so she's taught my daughter, so we can make almond roca in our home now. So our daughter
Okay.
has the recipe, and she has made some good batches. There's been some learning batches as well, but anyway, so she does. She does. I can. In fact, I will. I would be happy to send it to you. But that was a COVID treat. So
Wow.
you might, obviously COVID, things shut down in March,
Yeah.
right? 2020.
Yeah.
And so we were very much of the shutdown folk. Like, you ain't coming over, we ain't going out. Like, we just decided. And probably, the 6, 7, 8 week mark, you're like, okay, like, this is lasting. We got to change this. And so, we asked mom and dad, or asked mom for the almond roca recipe. And of course, mom's like,
Oh,
yes, totally. And so I'm picturing she's going to, take a photo of it,
yeah.
and text it to us. Dude, 2 hours later, mom and dad show up on the doorstep, fully like in gown, like medical gowns. They had the face mask on. They had the this mask, like the goggle, like they were like all like, and they were kind of joking, really, because they're like, y'all have been quarantined, we've been quarantined, like we're not sick. And it was like, anyway, get
I
all
need
that
your
stuff
parents in my
off. Come on
life.
in, give hugs. It's so great to see you. So anyway, long-winded story too. I'd be happy to send you the recipe for almond roca. And,
Amazing.
so.
Best Christmas gift
Um,
ever.
okay. Anything going on this Christmas is special for your family right now? Sounds like you got people coming
Oh, I
into
got everybody
town.
coming home. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. This is going to be a
Yeah.
great Christmas. We moved to Colorado this past September, and so we got the grandkids half an hour north, and after looking through 150 houses, we finally found one. It was quite the journey. So Chloe's on her way home this evening. I got her standby on an earlier flight, and
Nice, nice,
Kate's
nice,
coming
nice.
home on Saturday. And so I'm really excited to have a
That's so
house
good.
full of family all
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
yeah.
love that. I love that. And I'm going to close this out by talking about things we appreciate for the year. So I'll go into a little bit, but one I will say is our granddaughter. We have twins. Our granddaughters are twins, and our second granddaughter is graduating college today, 1:00. So we are super stoked for her and having a party on Saturday to celebrate her. So it's not Christmassy, but it's still something to celebrate. And
Mhm.
you do the work there. So all right, you know what? Let's talk about your dad. Would you tell us the story of
Yeah.
your father and just kind of tell us his story.
I'd love to. Actually, the story begins even before my dad, if you don't mind my starting there.
Yeah, yeah, please.
I kind of alluded to this earlier that I am the great granddaughter of a headhunter. And so in 1890, the British were encroaching on our land. They were having a tea plantation. And so we took the heads of 350 tea plantation workers' heads. And
Wow.
only because we believed that in the next life, they would be our servants. So off they went, cutting off people's heads, right? So a Welsh missionary by the name of Watkin Roberts heard about this slaughter. And in 1910, he sent a copy of the Gospel of John in a neighboring language, not our language. Our people, majority of our people, probably 99%, were illiterate. And so our chief sent a message back and said, "Hey, can you come and tell us what this book is about?" And Watkin Roberts, he really believed that God was calling him to go there. And so he went to the British, said, "Hey, I got an invitation. I'm going in." And they're like, "No, you're not. They just want your head." And so Watkin Roberts defied the British, snuck in, spent 5 days with the leaders of our tribe. And on the fifth day, 5 men came to know the Lord. And
Wow.
one was my grandfather. And my
Amazing.
grandfather knew over 2 dozen of the local languages. And so he memorized that book of John and went around preaching. And when my dad was 10 years old, my grandfather came to my dad and said, Rochunga, you were commissioned, you were at birth to be the one to translate the Bible into our language, which for me, I'm youngest child, but I think it's so cool that like how God does what he does because it's never the obvious. And in Asian culture, oldest, youngest. It's not the middle child. Middle child might as well not even be born. But God chose my dad. And I love that. It's like so cool to know that that's who he chose. So my dad walked 96 miles through the jungles. In fact, he tells my kids stories about meeting elephants. You take a right turn, right turn. And the elephant falls. Like he tells stories like this to my kids. Python snakes, tigers, and so he finally gets to school and he matriculates. And then the way he tells me the story is a classmate said, "Are you going to go to university?" And And my dad's like, well, I don't know how to pay for it. I'm assuming it costs money. And the classmate said, well, go ask Prime Minister Nehru. my dad, my dad, he looked at him and said, okay. And I think the classmate was like joking,
Right,
but
right.
my dad took it seriously. Okay, I'll go ask Prime Minister Nehru. So off my dad went, got an appointment with Prime Minister. I don't know if people understand that's like going to President Trump or the president and saying, I would like a scholarship.
Right, right. Like, can I have a meeting? First
Yeah,
off, and
meeting. Yeah.
18-year-old, right?
So anyway,
Even
dad
though it was
gets
the 1930s or 40s, it's the
yeah.
same, right?
Crazy. So my dad goes and gets this meeting with Nehru, and Nehru says, I'd love to give you the first scholarship, but we don't even know your people exist. You're in Northeast India, where we know that you slaughtered 350 people, but you're tribals. And so my dad said, well, how do we show you we exist so that we can have access to scholarships? And Nehru said, you do a census. And my dad's like, well, okay, how do you do a census? And I've told the story millions of times, but like I've only had one person in the audience ever say, it's the mail system. And I'm like, whoa, this guy actually knows how to do a census. So yeah, so my dad helped start the postal system in Northeast India because he
Wow.
wanted all of the tribals, all of our people, not just himself, to get access to scholarships. And I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
right from
yeah.
the get-go, right? Generosity. There you go. So dad gets the scholarship, goes to Calcutta, goes to school. He has this divine encounter. And it's with a guy named Bob Pierce. And for those of you who don't know who Bob Pierce is, he started World Vision and Samaritan's Purse. So Uncle Bob
Wow.
meets my dad, says, what are you doing? And his daughter, Marilee, just recently wrote a book, and my dad's the first chapter in the book. So it tells the story there. Yeah.
Wow.
And so he my dad tells him, I want to translate the Bible into our language. Our people are illiterate, and I want to translate the Bible. They need to know the power of the gospel.
Yeah.
So he says, well, you need to go to Scotland. You need to go to Glasgow Bible College if you're serious about this. And my dad's like, okay, how do I get there? And he's like, I'll pay for it. So he sends my dad to Glasgow Bible College. Dad goes to school there. He's there, I don't know, I think it was like a month or two, and he gets a phone call. And it's one of those kind of universities where there's one phone. Rochunga, there's a phone call for you. So dad, makes his way to the phone, and there's a gentleman here who's from America who wants to meet with you. And so dad goes, okay. So he hangs up the phone, doesn't have money for a taxi. He's a student. So he runs to the hotel, gets to the room. It's Billy Graham and Ruth Graham.
What?
So we just have this great conversation about the Mar people and how, the gospel came to this headhunting tribe, and how we've gone from headhunters to heart hunters for Christ. And then, then Billy, he was having his big, one of those
Crusade and
gatherings that
all.
he does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
crusades. And he goes, okay, well, they came and said, you got to go back on, it's time for you. And so Billy pops his head back in the door and says, are you happy here in Scotland, Glasgow? My dad goes, no, it rains a lot. Who says that to Billy Graham?
Right,
But anyway, Billy goes, okay, let's get you to Wheaton College. So next thing I know, the story is that Uncle Bob and Billy Graham brought my dad to Wheaton College. My dad finished Bible translation.
Wow.
And today, my tribe is 99% Christian and 90% literate. We are the largest literate people group in India, I found out.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
so my parents went on to start, my dad was about flourishing, right? So this isn't about just dad getting this scholarship, go translate. No, it's about our people being kingdom citizens, right? And so dad ended up starting 300 schools because our people were illiterate. They couldn't read this Bible, this precious book that he had translated. And so he started schools. He started the Evangelical Free Church of India, where there's over 300 churches. He started a a university, a college, and then he started a seminary because we needed pastors. They only had
Wow.
um, one pastor for every 4 churches. So that pastor would only get once a month get to preach. And so he was like, we need more pastors. So he started a seminary, and then we started a hospital, because it's not just about, you know, knowing Christ, but also like healing, right?
Yeah.
And so what better way than to have a hospital, and then to be able to share the message of Jesus Christ in that hospital. So
Yeah.
they did that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're
Wow.
pretty amazing. Yeah. My parents were
Yeah.
really amazing.
Yes. That is an amazing story, but an amazing legacy, just to look
I
back
know.
and just see how your grandpa, and how that just absolutely changed the trajectory in 5 days from this Welsh missionary. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, how 5 days like transformed a region,
Hmm.
transformed a family. That'd be amazing enough, if your own
Right.
family, but like
Right.
it ends up, transforming a region because of somebody's boldness and generosity to not do what the government's telling you to do. And just, not that I'm suggesting anything there, y'all, but, to just be faithful to what they feel like God's called them to do. And
Well, and Elliot, here's the cool part. When you talk about generosity, it began with this woman in England. She sent £5 to Watkin Roberts with a note, 5 words: "Go save some Indian souls." And for him, that was the moment where he had been praying. He had asked the Lord, "What do you want me to do?" And he was like, "I'm supposed to go, to this tribe." He really sensed the Lord calling him there, but he was like, "Am I sure? Is it really sure?" And then he gets this £5, and that's what he used to send that Bible, buy a Bible and send it to our people. So her generosity, right, it started a whole ripple
right,
effect.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. Yeah. That's, incredible. So all y'all out there, like, if God's putting something on your heart, step into it. Step into
Mhm.
it. Allow that generosity to flow. And I sounds like I'm closing, but I'm not closing just yet. But like, again, the simplicity of, I hate to keep bringing up grocery carts, but the simplicity of grocery carts. The simplicity of, I can't wait to get to heaven and see the ripple. I call it a web, but the ripple of the donations that I've made to somebody I don't really know, who
Mhm.
is somewhere else or something else, and just to see in eternity, like, what did that web lead to? Like, what did that ripple lead to? What did it make a difference? Did it just stop, or did God just kind of use that in ways that this side of glory, we have no idea? And
Yeah.
and
Yeah. The seeds we
gratefully,
plant, right?
right, right,
Yeah.
right. And I'm grateful that you know the story. That's a ripple that we can celebrate, right? That see
Mhm.
all of that. Um, okay, as we close this year, what are you grateful for? Because I'm going to connect gratitude and generosity, because I really believe that generosity and gratitude, they're like brother and sister. Like they have to go along. When we realize God's generosity to us, there's a certain gratitude that flows out of that. Thank you, Lord, for. And so
Mm,
what are you grateful for? I'm kind of putting you on the spot. So
totally.
what in the last 12 months, which I'm sure have been a whirlwind to even think back to last January, but
Yeah.
what's a few things that just kind of popped to your mind?
That's a great question. Um, yeah, you have caught me on the spot, because I mean, I, I'm a 2 on the Enneagram. So like, I'm helper. I'm happy. I love giving. I love helping. So, generosity is just so much a part of who I am. But like, uh, yeah, I mean, I'm just so grateful. I've been watching. I've had the joy of having a front row
Hmm.
to watching people have the light bulb turn on to generosity. I think that has been the funnest thing over this last year. Is we've probably taken, I don't know how many people this year, but we've taken over 1,800 people through the generous living journey.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it is one of the most remarkable things to be in the front row. And the first day they come in, and like you said, they think I'm going to talk about money. They think I'm going to, like, there's some hidden thing going to happen. They're waiting for I forget what they call the thing to drop, right? And and for, on day 2, they're going to find out, okay, now reach
Now
deep
we
into
got
your
it.
pockets, into your
Right.
wallets, and
Right.
we
Right.
want you to give to Generous Living Global. Like, they're waiting for this, right, to happen.
Right.
And it doesn't, right? And so the first day they come in totally guarded, totally like, you're going to try to talk me into something,
Right.
and
This
I'm
is a
not buying
timeshare.
it.
This is a timeshare pitch.
Yeah,
I know it.
that's it, right? I know they're from, I don't know if they have timeshares in Africa like that, but like, I just mean, like, I'm just watching them, and I'm watching, and I'm, of course, I know what's going to happen on day 2. And I always pray, like, Lord, it's only your Holy Spirit that can transform hearts, right? And so I'm watching them walk in. They're sheepish. I mean, and so many people are walking in with carrying the weight of the world too, right?
Sure. Right.
And
Right.
so then somewhere about the first hour, Elliot, I'm sure you remember this, but we do Psalm 23. And we don't just recite it. We partner up and we read it to each other as a blessing. So, the Lord is Elliot's shepherd. Elliot, guess what? You shall not want.
Mm,
Elliot,
mm,
he
mm,
has green pastures there for you to lay down in, right?
mm, mm,
So
mm.
you're doing this Psalm 23 to the person. Tears are falling. People are like, something's cracking,
Yep.
you know?
Something's breaking. Yep.
All of a sudden, like, the walls are coming down. And we have a time of sharing. We say, what stood out to you? And people will say, I didn't know I didn't know that chapter was for me. Like, I know it's for me. Like, I know that, but I didn't know it's for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
ooh.
Yeah.
And so something starts happening. And then day 2, they come back, and we've had them do some homework, go through 26 questions, and they come back, and we have a time of quiet silence. And I think the frenetic lives that we all live, to have that 15, 20 minutes does something. And so then all of a sudden people go, wow, he's really abundant.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me
Mm-hmm.
these 2 days to
Mm-hmm.
really just bask in him, and transformation happens. And there's no ask.
Right. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which to this day, like, I'll have people coming up to me at the end, and they'll say, you didn't do an ask. You didn't do an offering. And I'm like, because there isn't one.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
for you. It's a gift,
Yeah.
right? It's a
Mm, mm,
gift.
mm. Yeah.
And we just pray that the Lord will resource what we're doing. And
Yeah.
so, we just keep doing this. And it's just, I mean, for me, that's been probably the highlight of this year, is watching
Yeah.
transformation happen.
Yeah.
And and then hearing the stories. They all have my WhatsApp now, because they're in groups. So every day I wake up, there's somebody telling me, like, this has transformed my life.
Wow.
Here's what I'm doing this week.
Yeah.
Here's what I did today. This has
Wow.
made such an impact on my life. How did I miss
Wow.
this? How did
Yeah.
I know?
Yeah.
How did I miss that God is generous, that he is abundant? And so I think that's
Yeah.
been the highlight of my
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I love that. All right. How do people find out more about Generous Living Global? Where can they look you up? Where can they
Oh my gosh,
connect with what
Elliot.
you guys are doing?
Yeah. So Elliot, we just started October 8th. Like, this is fresh. You came on our very first trip. We're still working
Yes.
out the kinks.
Yes.
Our team is learning to be together. We were so glad to have you there. It was,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
was,
thank you.
in fact, our team is like, can Elliot come with us every trip? So just so you know.
I do have a few podcasts to record, but yes.
We'll figure that out. Anyway,
Right.
so we have a website. We're up and running. It's generous.living, and they can
Yes.
go to our
Yes.
website. There's a connect, connect at generous.living. I know everybody's like, where's the .com? Where's the .org? But we were able to get generous.living.
Living. Yeah. I love
Super
it.
cool.
I love it. And yeah, I just grateful for you. I mean, so we met in September, and that's part of the reason that I'm normally like 6 to 8 weeks out on podcast recordings. So normally that we'd be recording this for like February, but because you invited me to Nigeria, I'm recording this a week before it comes out. So this is very unusual, but just grateful for how God showed up that particular weekend. And you invited me back to a place where, I went to high school, and I actually never expected to go back to Nigeria again. And so just to even have that opportunity to go to Lagos, which is not where I lived, but just to be back in Nigeria was amazing. Something I was looking forward to. And I will never forget when you're asking me this, hey, pray about going to Nigeria. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know that I should be buying a plane ticket right now. Like, it's just like this, just kind of the way things are stacking up financially. Like, I'm not sure this is, what I should be doing with my funds right now. And you literally came back 5 minutes later, and I didn't tell you that. It was just, in my brain. And you're like, oh, by the way, don't worry about paying for your plane ticket. I found somebody to fund that for you. And that moment was also one of those where just realizing that God's got us, that God's got you, and God's going to take care of this. And I think I've mentioned Psalm 37 has been an important Psalm to me. And one of the phrases is that rest in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. And that trip to Nigeria, which ended up being me going backwards, a whole other story, to Jos, which is where I did live for 3 years, was just a story of God giving me the desire of my heart, unearned, undeserved. It was not because I sowed seeds for the last 30 years and this, that, or the other. I didn't have it in mind to do, but it is just an incredible, generous blessing. So thank you that you let God use your gifts and all of that.
Fun.
It was a blessing to me, and I don't know. It was amazing, and just
oh my gosh! For all your listeners who I wish you could have seen Elliot, because he had this smile plastered on his face the entire time.
Yes.
I was like, yes. Do you smile all the time?
Yeah, right.
It's like,
no.
But he was it was like he was floating all through Lagos, and I'm assuming in Jos. Though I wish I could have been a bug on the wall on that airplane as you're flying there. I bet you were just
it was
giddy.
Amazing, giddy. And then of course, as soon as you see like the geography of Plateau State, like I warned the guy sitting next to me, I'm like, I'm going to probably start crying. So it's tears of joy. I just want you to know it's tears of joy. And no, it was amazing. Connected with people that either I didn't know were still there or had, worked with my parents when they were in Nigeria. And so it was just this amazing connection. And I'm beginning to see even opportunities to get to go back again and serve in Jos, and maybe serve with y'all again if you would have me, if there's an invite there ever. But so just super grateful. I mean, really, honestly, it's more than I could have imagined. It's definitely more than I deserve, but I was floating, I was smiling, and I was exhausted, and early mornings and late nights and time change and whatever was going on in here, all that didn't matter. Normally that makes me grumpy, anyway, so that's what generosity does to you, though. Okay, this is my last question for you. What's exciting you right now? It doesn't have to be related to generosity at all. Maybe something in your family or a Bible verse. Could be Christmas coming up. But what's one thing that when you think about it right now, it just puts a smile on your face?
Definitely all my kids coming home. Yeah. I am just really excited. Yeah. I know it's silly, but I'm just really excited to have everybody we're going to have popcorn. We're going to watch movies. I'm not going to work. And we're just, and my husband's going to smoke fish. He's an amazing, he's caught so much salmon, and so he's going to smoke some salmon, and the kids are going to eat, and I'm just going to feed them all week.
I love it. Okay. I do have one more question. Do you have a go-to Christmas movie that your family's like, it ain't Christmas if we don't watch, or is it just like any Hallmark movie out there? What's your...
Oh my gosh. My embarrassingly, but my daughter Kate and I, we do watch Hallmark movies at
Oh,
this time of the
oh,
year.
no
So
embarrassing. Ani and
I've
Penny, always up on that. Yes.
really
Yes. Oh,
okay.
yeah.
And then I think we all watch Elf. I
Come
think
on.
that is definitely kind of
Yes.
a winner in the
Yes.
house. And then
Yes.
what is the Christmas with the Cranks? Chloe's
Oh,
go. Oh
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
Chloe's
Okay.
go-to is Christmas with the Cranks. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
definitely
Awesome.
those. So we're
Awesome.
excited.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Elf will be on in this house. I guarantee some Hallmark movies. And then from there, there's, who knows what we pivot into. So probably will be a Die Hard. We usually do at least one action movie. So Die Hard somehow, I know there's a debate. Is it a Christmas movie or not? It's not a Christmas movie, but there's violence.
Yeah.
It's Christmas time of year. That's anyway. So, which is not the story of Christmas. Stories about
No.
peace and love and God's generosity to us. So, all right, Mary, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. So, thank you for joining us. And for everybody out there today, let's all live faith first. Hey, you're still here. That means you enjoyed that conversation with Mary. Wasn't that a ton of fun? I just love that concept of generosity and how that gift of God that he gave us is not for ourselves alone. It's also to give away. So here's the one thing I'd like to know. Put it in the comments below. I'd love to see what you're thinking, but what's a generosity project that you can do? We talked about maybe thank you notes to your pastor. Maybe it is you're going to be real purposeful when you're in grocery store parking lots. Is there somebody that needs their cart taken back? But what's one thing you can do today that just shows that generosity and might be a ripple that begins to change just a little bit in our society and the world around us? So, all right, everybody, hope you had a great Christmas, and let's live faith first.